All right. Hello. Good morning to those of you out there. Good afternoon, whatever your time zone may be. For me, it's morning time. And today I want to talk about, do we live in a world that's based on subjectivity or the objectivity? Meaning that do we live in a subjective reality or objective reality? And it's like based on probability. So I'm going to give my own thoughts into this, and I'm going to have a discussion centered around this. Okay. So this is going to be like one of those quick videos. All right. So it's not going to be very long. All right. Peace, Brother Chauncey. So it's like based on probability. To answer that question, first of all, we have to look up the word probability. And then once we get into the context of what probability means, then we can be able to answer the question, is life based on probability? All right, so let me go ahead and get started. So right here, okay, so let's look at probability. As you can see, there go the dice right there, because for those of you that be playing CeeLos and shooting crabs and all that, you know that every time you roll a dice, that's a symbolism of probability. Okay. Now, check this out. All right. So probability is the branch of mathematics concerning numerical description of how likely an event is to occur, or how likely it is that a proposition is true. The probability of an event is a number between 0 and 1, where roughly speaking, 0 indicates impossibility of the event and 1 indicates certainty. The higher the probability of an event, the more likely it is that the event will occur. A simple example is the tossing of a fair, unbiased coin. Since the coin is fair, the two outcomes, heads and tails, are both equally probable. The probability of heads equal the probability of tails. And since no other outcomes are possible, the probability of either heads or tails is a half, which could be also written as 0.5 or 50%. All right. Now, these concepts have been given in aximatic mathematical. Excuse me, let me go back. That was a mistake on my part. Okay, these concepts have been given in aximatic mathematical formalization in probability theory, which is used widely in areas of study such as statistics, mathematics, science, finance, gambling, artificial intelligence, machine learning, computer science, game theory, and philosophy. For example, draw inference about the expected frequency of events. Probability theory is also used to describe the underlying mechanics and regularities of complex systems. All right, so, and then it gets down to talk about interpretation. Okay, so we're gonna go into that in a minute. Now that we know that the definition of probability, right, is based on the numerical description of how an event is more than likely or less likely to occur. So, with that being said, it's like based on probability. Where I stand, in my opinion, yes, it is. Because as we looked at the definition, it shows that it is based on the chances of something that may occur, chances something may happen. So in life, there's not an absolutism. Mean that, oh, this gonna absolutely happen. No, because you don't have that determination to prove that something's gonna absolutely happen. Now, what we do know what's gonna absolutely happen is if you're gonna die. I mean, we know that's absolute. Death is absolute. You know, you can't get away from that. So it's gonna happen. But overall, everything else is based on probability. That means that there's a greater chance this gonna happen. There's less chance that this may not happen. So, for example, the weather. It might be a greater chance that it might start raining and gets colder, or there's a less chance that it's going to be sunny and the temperature is going to go up. So the meteorologist does not always have the absolute answer. So if you notice, they use a lot of mathematics. So this is why I stand on my position to believe that the universe itself is mathematical, because it's based on the probability. So for my people out there that's rolling dice, that's shooting crabs, that's doing CeeLos, y'all should know about probability. I mean, because that's what it is, the probability. If you playing dominoes, that's probability right there. All right, so we don't live in a world that's based on absolutism. So there might be a great chance this is going to happen. There might be a chance this may not happen. There might be a chance that you might live to see tomorrow. There might be a chance that you won't live to see tomorrow. You don't know. You can't determine those factors. Only thing you know you have is the now. And you may not guarantee to live another second. And so that's the funny thing about life. Life is probable. Life has a way of showing that it does not give you an absolute answer. It's going to happen whenever it's going to happen. So we can sit here and be very definite about something. We can say, oh, this is going to happen. Absolutely. When there's a chance that it may not happen. So life has a way of showing that it is mathematical. The universe has a funny way of showing that it's based on mathematics. So math is the most important component of them all. As a matter of fact, let's go back and let's look up the definition of mathematics. Okay. All right, so what is mathematics? Mathematics is the knowledge, study, learning, includes the study of such topic as numbers, arithmetic, and number theory, formulas and related structures, shapes and spaces in which they are contained, and quantities of their changes. There is no general consensus about its exact scope or epistemological status. So most mathematical activity consists of discovering and proving by pure reasoning properties of abstract objects. These objects are either abstraction from nature, such as natural numbers, or in modern mathematics, abstract entities that are defined by their basic properties called axiom. All right. So just to leave it right there, what it does is studies topics such as numbers, formulas, and related structures, shapes, and spaces in which they are contained, and quantities of and their changes. That's what math deals with. So it deals with the topic of numbers and formulas and shapes and spaces. So that's all we know. We know based on probability. We know based on mathematics. And see, they say numbers don't lie. Numbers will not lie. Because numbers give you the probability of something. You got 50% chance of this, or 70% chance, 20%, 10%, 20, 30%, etc. So those numbers just show you what is gonna likely occur, what's less likely not occur. And that's how we gotta understand that life is based on that. Okay. I want to go down here and read something real fast. Okay. I'm going to make this real quick. Got to make it real quick. All right. So now talk about interpretation. Okay. So I'm just going to read this part right here. It says, when dealing with experiments that are random and well-defined in purely theoretical settings, probabilities can be numerically described by the number of desired outcome divided by the total number of all outcomes. Okay. Now, objectiveness assigns numbers to describe some objective or physical state of affairs. The most popular version of objective probability is frequentness probability, which claims that the probability of a random event denotes the relative frequency of occurrence of an experiment's outcome when the experiment is repeated indefinitely. All right. Then subjectiveness assigns number per subjectivity probability that is as a degree of belief. The degree of belief has been interpreted as the price at which you would buy or sell a bet that pays 1 unit of utility. Okay. If E or 0, if not E, although that interpretation is not universally agreed upon. All right. So as you can see, the objectiveness assign numbers to what's going to happen in the physical state or what's going to occur. So they know that it's going to happen, but they don't know exactly when. They know that there's going to be that the event is going to occur, but they don't have a definite number. They don't know exactly like when, what time it's going to exactly happen, but they know that it's going to happen. So that's the objectiveness. All right. And the subjectiveness, they just operate on a belief system, but they can't prove that based on their belief system that it's going to be factual or not. So they just have their own hypotheses or views or beliefs about something. So enough of that. So yes, that's all I wanted to talk about based on probability. Now let's go into the objective and subjective reality real fast. So now the question is, do we live in a world that's based on subjectivity or the objectivity? So let's look at subjective reality. The term subjective reality means that something is actually depending on the mind. For example, someone walks by a flower and experiences the beauty of the flower. Would you say that the experience of beauty is dependent or independent of the mind? Would the experience of the form in general of the flower be dependent on the mind? That's a good one. Objective means that something is actual, so it exists independent of the mind. For example, while no one is nearby, a meteor crashes into a car, putting it on flames, leaving only a pile of ashes. Are any of these events dependent on some mind? It is actually hard to state a purely objective reality example, as one needs to describe it in concept that they are interpreted by the mind. All right, so then there's the argument about, does objective reality exist? Many people argue that it does not exist, and there's some that do. So it's people like myself that believes that we do live in a world that's based on both subjectivity and the objectivity. Why is that? Because subjectivity is based on one's interpretation, one's perception, and their view about life based on how they experienced it. And the objective is you're going to experience life. That's the objective. You're going to experience life. You're going to live it. So the objectivity is you're living life, or you are a living being, an organism. But the subjective is depending on your perception and what's the outcome of the events that took place in your life. How has it affected your thinking? How does it affect your worldview? And then it's based on the ideas of what you have. See, the reason why we live in a subjective reality is because we live based on the concept of philosophy. Philosophy plays a big role, in which is why I recommend you guys get this book right here, which is called The History of Philosophy by A.C. Grayling. Philosophy plays a big role into why we live in the subjectivity, because all the ideas started off as being philosophical. So it went from being philosophical to be brought into the existence. So a lot of the stuff that we do as far as laws are what? Philosophical. It started off being philosophical when they went from being philosophical to being brought into existence. And it took multiple people, excuse me, my eyes. Oh, okay. It took multiple people to agree on certain particular ideas in order for the laws to be passed. So they had to agree on the consensus. So based on the votes, again, going back to the probability, you had 50% or 40%, 80% of people that voted for this law, and you had 20% of people that voted against the law. But they always say majority wins. So if majority wins, then that law is going to be passed. But know that the law is subjective, not the objective, but it's subjective because it's based on someone's idea or a group of people's idea. All right. So again, here's the question: objective reality is this. Okay, so I'm not gonna really go into all of this, but it says an argument for humans have physically similar brains and nervous system. These similarities result in similar interpretation of similar stimuli. The fact that two people locate side by side and looking in the same direction describes some similarity what they see. Reasonably indicates that they are reacting to a single external reality. All right. In the case of hallucination, radical differences in two people's description of a single aspect of a presumed single external reality can occur. Some such differences can repeatedly be demonstrated to coincide with differences in chemical or structural differences in one nervous system as compared to other. All right. And then the argument for there is no evidence that objective reality doesn't exist. So Occam's razor suggests we ought to accept it as the simplest possible explanation for reality. All right, so again, we know that the objective reality that exists is the fact that you are a human, and not only that you are human, I'm using this for example, you are a human and that you're going to live. That's the objective. You're going to live, you're going to have to live, and you're going to experiment life. That's the objective. Now, the subjective is how you're going to go about experimenting life. What type of ideas are you going to bring into existence? What type of thoughts are you having? How are you going to go about using perception? That's the subjective. So I would say that it's more subjectivity than the objectivity. It's both, but you have a lot more subjectivity taking place in life. So I want to go ahead and sum it up. Do we live in a world that's based on probability? Yes. Do we live in a world that's based on subjectivity and the objectivity? Yes. But we live in a world that's based on more probability and more of subjectivity than the objectives. And that's all I gotta say. So with that being said, thank you guys for tuning in, watching, and listening to this video. And I hope you guys have a good day. And make sure you guys check out my channel, check out the contents on here, share my channel. And I appreciate for those of you that have been subscribing to my YouTube. That really means a lot to me when I least expected it. But I'm still grateful for that. All right. But anyways, you guys, you take it easy on yourselves, and you guys have a good afternoon, good day, or whatever. And I will reconnect with you all later. All right. So this your girl Tiffany. I'm logging off with saying peace and power elevation. Have a good one.